And a very warm welcome to you. I'm Hayley Palmer. It's really good to have you here on the Memory Lane 80s show tonight. And tonight's special guest is Paul Hardcastle. We'll be chatting to him after this.
The United States and the Soviet Union are the most powerful nations on Earth, yet both could be destroyed in less than 30 minutes.
To have you on the show. How are you?
I'm very well, Hayley, and thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. And obviously we've been in lockdown. What have you been up to?
Well, over the last couple of months, I've just been burying myself in my music in the studio. To be honest with you, when first lockdown happened, I didn't know what to do because I'm a social sort of guy. You know, I go out and I produce other people. I go to studios. I'm always doing different meetings and stuff. And to be kept in was like, whoa, what's going on here? I didn't understand it. My brain was all over the place. And yet, the funny thing is, people are saying that what I've put on my Facebook, you know, is some of the best music that I've actually done in my career. So how does that work when you don't feel great in one side of your brain and yet you get into the studio and I suppose it's because you don't think about anything else.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I want to dive straight into 19. Your record company were unsure, but Simon Fuller was the one who believed it would be a big hit.
Well, when you say unsure, okay, they thought that I had basically just landed from the planet Zorg. So, cutting it short, the reason Simon contacted me was because he had a record by Madonna called Like a Virgin. And I happened to knock that off of the #1 spot in America on the 12-inch sales chart. And so he's obviously looking at that and thinking, who's this little git that basically has knocked my record off the #1? So he contacted me and just said, look, would you like to come in and see us at Chrysalis? Maybe we can do something together. And he also said, if you've got anything else that you're working on, bring it in. Anyway, I get to the meeting and the funny thing was there's the whole hierarchy from, you know, Chris Wright to everyone at Chrysalis, all the top people. And anyway, it got to the point where they said, well, what else have you done? And I've played them this demo of 19, and at the end of it, it was just a shock of horror on their faces because they'd never heard a record that was so stark and right in your face, telling you about war. You know, you're 19 and your head's being blown off, all that sort of stuff. And so at the end of it, they left. Thank you very much, Paul, and stuff. And Simon went to me, they don't get it. He said, but I think it's a great idea.
Wow, he really believed in you.
He did, yep. He said, what about if I leave my job and become your manager? And I said, well, what does a manager do? Because I was only young.
Yeah.
And he said, I just take all the hassle for you. So I said, all right, okay, let's do it. And 7-8 weeks later, we was #1 in 13 different countries.
No.
We had the biggest selling record of the year internationally. I think we did about 4.5 million records on that track.
God, and did you have any idea it would be that much of a success?
No, because people were telling me it wouldn't be a success, so I doubted myself a little bit. But the funny thing was, though, that Simon basically named his management company after the first thing, because I was his first ever artist. So he named 19 Management after the record 19, and obviously he's become the biggest and the best manager ever in the world. So quite a good thing. Simon and myself are still very good friends. He was my best man at my wedding.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was my. He is my goddaughter's. He is godfather to my daughter. Let me get this right.
Well, I just think it's a brilliant story, because when everyone's saying no to you, but there's just something inside you that says, no, actually, I'm going to go forward with this. And like you say, it just took one person to believe in you. That is kind of a great story to talk about these days, because that happens in the industry all the time, doesn't it?
It does indeed. But do you know what, Hayley? That was one of the things that really spurred me on with the career. And it taught me, not to listen to anyone else. And since then, I've never listened to any record company or whatever. I just do my own thing, and it taught me a big lesson from a very early age, which you can't buy that experience.
Yeah, I like that. Well, we're going to check out the video to 19, and we will see you after this.
In 1965, Vietnam seemed like just another foreign war, but it wasn't. It was different in many ways, and so were those who did the fighting. In World War II, the average age of the combat soldier was 26. In Vietnam, he was 19. 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 19.
The heaviest fighting of the past 2 weeks continued today, 25 miles northwest of Saigon.
I wasn't really sure what was going on.
19. In Vietnam, the combat soldier typically served a 12-month tour of duty, but was exposed to hostile fire almost every day. 19.
In Saigon, a U.S. military spokesman said today more than 700 enemy troops were killed last week in that sensitive border area. Throughout all of South Vietnam, the enemy lost a total of 2,689 soldiers.
According to a Veterans Administration study, half of the Vietnam combat veterans suffer from what psychiatrists call post-traumatic stress disorder. Many vets complain of alienation, rage, or guilt. Some succumb to suicidal thoughts. 8 to 10 years after coming home, almost 800,000 men are still fighting the Vietnam War. None of them received the hero's welcome. Vietnam.
really sure what was going on. I wasn't really sure what was going on.
So I want to talk about After 19 because obviously it was such a big hit. Was there a lot of pressure to kind of get the follow-up hit? Because you had Just for Money, which actually got to number 19.
You've done your research. When you say
I have.
When you say pressure, just imagine a pressure cooker on full steam for 5 days. Everyone was just telling me what to do, not to do, how to do it. You know, the record label were involved. Simon was good. He just said, look, do what you want. But, you know, you've got all different departments in a major label. And in the end, it was sort of like a bit of a mishmash. But the fact that I had Bob Hoskins, who was my favourite actor.
Yes.
I had Sir Laurence Olivier, who has never been on a record before.
That's incredible.
And I made it about the Great Train Robbery and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And I was trying to keep a little bit in with what I'd done before because I knew people were expecting that. But as we talk further on, then obviously I do change in my career and stuff. But it was great. I mean, the video, to have those guys, I mean, working with Bob, who was my hero. I mean, it was brilliant doing the video. And a guy called Edo Ross, who was in Hamburger Hill. And yeah, we had everything. I mean, that video at the time, I think it cost about almost £200,000. And in them days was a hell of a lot, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you really were ahead of the curve with your style of music video, weren't you?
Yes, I think we were. We made a great video of it. You know, we had even, you know, not fake, but proper old £5 notes and old Jaguars and the whole thing, you know. So when you see the video, that's all really, really authentic stuff. We had to hire that all in, you know, for someone to lend you, you know, £1,000's worth of old £1 notes that we're throwing around, you know, trying to hide, is it costs a lot of money. But I'm proud of that video. I do like it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we like it on this show here too. We're going to check it out and see you after this.
Glasgow Station. The Royal Mail train's loaded with over £2.5 million. That's more money than most people can dream of. But then, some people have big dreams.
What if we get caught?
Of course we won't.
But say we do.
Don't worry, just think about the money. Imagine what you can do with it.
It's the last job I'm going to do. I'm in for this one, then I'm out.
It's a life of luxury, my son.
I'm off to Spain and that's it.
Go to Spain. This is going to be the crime of the century.
Valentine's Day. Red roses. It's said that some have died for love. In North Clark Street, Chicago, they died for money. Died for money.
Cops always line you up with your nose in the bricks. They'll expect that. Once their backs are turned, we'll just pepper the wall with them. You got the cops? A couple of guys from out of town. I used them before. They're clean, don't worry.
Hey, I'm paying you. Worry.
It's gonna be a messy business.
Our business, their mess.
You know it's Valentine's Day, Al. You want I should leave a message?
Yeah, it's a good day to die.
Money. Think about the money.
rich men in the world divided up their money amongst themselves, there wouldn't be enough to go round.
This is going to be the crime of the century.
£2.5 million.
This is going to be the crime of the century.
More money than you could ever dream of.
Don't worry, just think about the money.
I'm in for this one and I'm out.
Imagine what you can do with it.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
I'm in for this one and I'm out.
Just think about the money.
I'm not going to buy a roller.
Just don't mess it up. Well, the only place you'll be going is the scrubs. The scrubs. The scrubs.
Go to South America, sit in a bar and drink champagne.
Don't mess it up. Well, the only bars you'll be seeing are beyond your windows.
The train robbers were sentenced to a total of 307 years.
Oh, time for a Paul Hardcastle special song. This one's called Can't Stop Now.
There's no turning back, girl. On this love thing you let go. Maybe tomorrow you'll find yourself another man. I hope you treat him with passion, not like a fair weather friend.
Right back to the early days, because as you know, I've done my research and you wanted to be a motor bike racer, didn't you?
I did, and I was quite good at it, Hayley, actually. I wasn't bad at all. The only problem was that I had a bad crash.
Oh no.
And it put me into hospital for 4 months. I had a fractured femur, tibia and fibula, but it was compound fractures, which means that's where your bone comes through. And so I spent 18 months in sort of like plaster and traction and stuff. And I thought, you know what, this hurts. But it was while I was listening to the radio, I thought, you know what, I'm sure I could do something like this. So when I came out of hospital, I swapped a video camera with a friend who had a little synthesizer, only a small one.
God.
And that's how I started, by playing one note at a time. And to make chords, because it was only what's called a monophonic synthesizer, you had to only play one note. So I had to have 2 cassette decks, play one note and then bounce it across, put the other note in, and by the time you had like a 3-note chord, it was like a chip shop. But that's how I started.
But you came from a musical family though, didn't you? Because your dad was a trumpet player.
My dad was a jazz musician. My great uncle was a guy called Monsieur Eddie Gray, who was in a thing called the Crazy Gang. And they were very, very famous, like in the 50s. I mean, if you look them up, they were massive. So yeah, I have had some grounding with it, but I didn't really want to do it at the time. I was just mad on motorbikes until I smashed my leg to pieces.
Oh, Oh dear. Oh, well, we're going to talk about your next song, Don't Waste My Time. So am I right in saying that you were performing this on Top of the Pops and then the producer asked you to write the theme to Top of the Pops?
Yeah, so Don't Waste My Time was the third single off the album. And I thought, you know what, I'd like to sort of do a proper vocal song now. And I got Carol Kenyon in to do it because I'd seen her doing Heaven 17 and that track that she did with them, Temptation. And I thought, she's great. So I asked if she would work with me. She said yes. So I said, I'll meet you at the studio. And the funny thing was, I was writing the lyrics in the back of the cab on the way there. But Carol was great. So anyway, luckily for us, Don't Waste My Time was a massive hit all around Europe. I think it got to about number 8 here or something like that. I can't remember charts.
Yeah, number 8.
Oh, I got that right. And basically, as I was coming off stage, off of doing Top of the Pops, this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hi, Paul, I really like 19. I said, "Oh, thank you." I thought he was a cameraman. And he said, also, like what you just did, "I've got a question for you." I was like, "Okay, yeah." He said, "Would you be interested in writing the new theme for Top of the Pops?" And I was like, taken aback.
What an honour.
But it was, like when you get a surreal moment. So I went, yeah. He said, "Well, look, we're thinking of changing it." I said, "How long do I have to sort of do this?" And he said, "As quick as possible." Well, as luck would have it, I just bought this thing called a synclavier, which was the biggest and the best thing in the recording industry. There was only 4 in England. There was Sting, George Michael and someone else. Trevor Horn from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, he had one. And I bought this thing. I won't tell you how much it cost because you could have bought a house. And basically, I stayed up all night and I did it for him in 2 days. And the interesting thing is that I had the first thing called a direct-to-disc, which means that it wasn't just digital tape. When people say, "Oh, it's all digital," it wasn't. They was using tapes as well. This was the first ever record that basically was done on disc and on computer. And The Wizard was the first one to do that. So I was quite proud of that.
Yeah, that is such an achievement. Well, we're firstly going to play out Don't Waste My Time. You were right, it was number 8 in 1986.
You keep coming
Oh, then we've got a question from Amanda, one of our viewers. She says the BBC chose your track, The Wizard, as the theme for Top of the Pops. That must have been such a proud moment for you. It's such an iconic show, and I've got to agree, because bring back Top of the Pops. I just loved every Thursday night. We'd all sit down as a family and watch it. And for you to have written the theme tune, you must have been really proud.
Well, thank you for that, Amanda. And yes, I was. I mean, it's something that basically, is something that I'd sort of always get asked about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hearing your music on obviously the biggest sort of like pop show every week was some achievement, and it was always through the top 40 to the top, it went through the whole program. So, it wasn't just the theme at the start and at the end, it was all through the chart rundown and things like that. And we called it The Wizard. And it was great. And it was an honour to.
And they used it for about 5 to 6 years, didn't they?
I think it was about 6 years, yeah. And it was great, it was a hit record as well, because we made a video for it. And the funny thing was, there's a bit in the video where a guy sort of says, "Darkness and light, I bid you collide." And I thought, who could I use for that? And there was an old programme in the 70s called Catweasel. Now, some of your viewers will remember it. He was a wizard. And I thought, why don't I get him? And he came over to my house and he did the voiceover for it. So it was like my brain going, who's a wizard? Well, the wizard was Catweasel. So, yeah, it was great fun doing it. And I am very, very proud of it, and it was a hit record. And it's still on now, on repeat on TV.
Yeah, I watch it. I love it. Oh, yeah. Love a bit of Top of the Pops. Well, I'm really excited to play this out. It gives me goosebumps just hearing that theme tune. Here it is, The Wizard, and we will see you after.
What does that say? The Wizard.
we've got some questions from some of our lovely viewers. Dave says there was a few spoof versions of 19, even recently. Are you proud of this? And is it true you worked with Rory Bremner on his spoof version 19 Not Out?
Yes, I confess to that. The thing was, at the time, because 19 was such a sort of, a hard-hitting subject, when I was asked by Rory if I would be involved in it and produce it, the label were like, you can't do this, you've made this serious record, and then all of a sudden you're going to be sort of taking the mick out of yourself type of thing. And I just said to him, look, this is my career. If I can't take the mick out my own self, then who can? So I just did it anyway, and it was a big hit. And it was quite funny, but I just didn't understand cricket at the time. I'm a footballer.
You're a football. Who do you support?
Chelsea. I was born sort of in St Mary Abbots, which is actually in Chelsea, which is basically, funny enough, where Jimi Hendrix actually died. Which is a weird one. I was born in the same hospital as him, but yeah, it was. I was like 10 minutes to walk to Stamford Bridge, so I'm a true blue. Still am.
Okay, we'll let you have that one.
Thank you.
And Leah would like to say, you kept Duran Duran off the #1 spot with their single "View to Kill." Has Simon, Nick, John, and Roger forgiven you yet?
Well, I think that was an achievement, because let's take it like this: #1, Duran Duran were most probably the biggest band in the world.
Oh yeah.
Right? They had the biggest film in the world with View to a Kill behind them, and they couldn't knock me off of #1. So how they didn't was because I invented really the remixes. So one minute I had sort of like 2 records on Top of the Pops, each week the video. Then we changed the video and I changed the backing track and stuff. And the third one was called the Destruction Mix. So people went out and bought that. Then it looked like they was going to knock me off. And I went back in the studio and I did one last one called The Final Story. And that kept them from being '1. Did they forgive me? I remember seeing a little video of Simon sort of saying, someone said to him, well, you never got to #1, did you, even with the film? And he went, well, he keeps bloody remixing it, don't he? So there you go. I guess I was one of the first people to do that sort of thing, and it was a bit of a ploy, but I didn't have a James Bond film behind me, did I? And I wasn't the biggest band in the world. I was not known.
God, just brilliant. Well, we're going to play out Fooling Yourself from 1986, and we'll see you after this.
You're playing games and messing up my life.
talk about your success in the Billboard Jazz Chart. Just phenomenal.
Well, yes. I mean, the Billboard chart, I've had 31 number ones on that. America has always been my sort of real sort of place of making records. I suppose it started off with Rainforest, which was the big number one even before 19. And it is an honour to sort of like say that you've topped that chart 31 times. Not many people know this, as Michael Caine used to say. But yeah, it's been great, and I'm working on another one now, and it's number 10 this week. So it looks like it will hit number one again. So it's great.
And you've worked with many artists, haven't you? Doing remixes, Barry White, Sunita, 5 Star. Yay! Who's been your favourite?
Yeah, Ian Jury, Barry. Blimey, there's just so many. Who was my favourite? Well, my favourite basically was a guy called D-Train Williams, James D-Train Williams. D-Train, You're the One for Me was my favourite record of the 80s. And I remember going into a club and hearing that record just as I was starting my own career. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell is this? I was awe-inspired. Anyway, so basically to get to work with the guy that inspired you 3 years later, because it wasn't a hit, first of all, D-Train, and then I got involved with it because I guess I was the golden boy of remixing. You know, I mean, I was working with Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, lots of different people. And, you know, to work with him and do that record was, I think, one of the highlights of my career as well. We called it the Labour of Love mix because it was done for that actual reason, and the record came out great, and everyone still comes up to me and says, even as much as 19, they say, wow, the D-Train thing, man, that was some heavy stuff. That was great.
Oh, love that. We're going to play out the last song, Walk in the Night, from 1988.
Well, it was one of my favourite instrumental records by Junior Walker and the All-Stars, and I thought, why don't I do a version of it? But what I did like about it was the video, because what it is, it's like me orchestrating all these different animals to sort of sing and play and stuff like that. It was just a real good bit of fun, and I like the video. I mean, people will smile when they sort of see it. It's a lovely video, and yeah, I think we was quite creative with it, really.
Yeah, we're going to play that out on the show now. But thank you so much, Paul. It's been such a pleasure to have you here on the show today. And please keep us posted on everything coming up with you, won't you?
Hayley, listen, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been real good fun, and I thought it would be. I did tell you on the phone that it would be. And yes, I will keep you updated because touch wood, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be top of the Billboard chart again from all the indications that I've had from America. So.
Fantastic stuff. Well, thank you so much. It's Paul Hardcastle, everyone.
Thank you, Hayley. Hey!
Oh, we've now come to the end of the show, but a huge thank you to the wonderful Paul Hardcastle for being a fantastic guest on tonight's show, and to you for supporting the show. It really is very much appreciated. Thank you. Now we're going to leave you with that last Paul Hardcastle song, Walk in the Night, and I will see you same time, same place next week.